allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call this regular board meeting to order. Roll call shows everybody's here except Peter. First is the October 19th, 2017 regular board meeting minutes. Any discussion or changes?
Move to approve. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. October 19th, 2017 Committee of the Whole meeting minutes. Any questions or changes?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We'll move on to the October 24th, 2017 Committee of the Whole meeting minutes. Any questions or changes on that?
I'll make a motion to approve. I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And then lastly, we'll have the October 24th, 2017 closed session Committee of the Whole meeting minutes.
Move to approve.
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. Changes, I don't know of any. License and permits.
2 operator licenses, number 97 for Corey Lee Fisher, number 98 for Jill Summers. Both have received the police department's signature and approval, so I'll be looking for a village board motion.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. Pre-registered citizens.
First is Brad Mathewson.
Well, it's a long time coming. So, chickens. Sorry, my arm not working well. Chicken have become the hot topic as of late. As you guys all know, Appleton improved chickens, and now, in the last couple of years, Hortonville has been kind of kicking it around. So, I myself am not a fan of chickens. I don't have anything against them, but let me just do a few things here. So, obviously, where are we here? Okay. Chicken prices for eggs are $2 for a dozen. Okay. So our forefathers set together zoning laws governing, the separation of agriculture and residential. So I think it'd be just going in reverse to try to change those rules. Chickens themselves, I'm not a chicken expert by any means. Chickens themselves, they'll lay 1 egg a day. I don't know if many of you guys know that. Like Appleton has 4 rules where they have 4 chickens. In a week you're only getting about 2 dozen eggs a week. It's also illegal for you to sell your eggs unless you have an FDA approved license, unless you're a farmer and you have a license. So if you had chickens at your own house, you would not be able to sell eggs. It would be illegal. Chickens themselves lay eggs for a period of about 2 years before their, their laying time actually decreases. And, I don't know what the rules are in the village of Hortonville, but most municipalities, it's illegal to kill, an animal, for meat or whatever else, or your own pet. So I don't know what people would do once you had chickens for 2 years. It means to stop laying eggs. So if the village decided to go through with this, they'd have to come up with, obviously you have to come up with setback laws, governing where chicken coops can be, like with city of Appleton has. And then you'd have to decide, okay, who is gonna be the chicken czar? So is the police gonna go out and they're gonna decide, okay, so you guys have broken these rules or whatever, so, and then what is the penalty gonna be that? Then someone would also have to approve plans, chicken coop size, okay, we're gonna allow this certain size. What type of poultry are we gonna, we just gonna have regular chickens, or can you have ducks, or what can you have turkeys? I think we're just opening up a can of worms on the whole thing. I contacted Tim Merckx, the Appleton Health Department. He's the environmental health supervisor in Appleton. And I talked to him today, and I asked him, I said, I have a few questions about how the chickens are going, how everything's going in Appleton right now. He said, well, we received a lot of media coverage. It was in the newspapers, it was on television, and he said it was a lot of just basically hot air. There's 74,000 people in the city of Appleton, and how many do you think apply to chicken coops? 9. There are 9 chicken coops in the city of Appleton. 9. Well, there's 74,000 people. Village of Hortonville has 2,700 people. 2,700, that's it. So so we're gonna just change all these rules, we're gonna have all these meetings to suffice just for a couple people? I mean, really, you're gonna have maybe 1 or 2 people? It doesn't make any sense to me. It really doesn't. I was shocked. I thought all the media coverage and all the people that came to the meetings in Appleton that they would have, and he even told me, he's like, I thought we were gonna have 30, 40, 50 people asking for coops. He's like, 9, we're at 9 right now. That's it. So, I guess that's just my 2 cents worth. I mean, I myself don't have a problem with chickens, be it if maybe we're in a newer subdivision where you had larger lots, like maybe 1 acre lots, versus the old part of town. I live down in Lakeview Avenue, the lot size is very small, 75 by 150. You're gonna have chicken coops on, home basically on top of each other. That's gonna hurt your property value when you go to sell. People might say, no, it won't, but I mean, if you went to look at a house and you looked and you saw chickens in their backyard, you're probably just gonna turn away from that house. I sure would. So, I guess, I don't know, I just wanted to get my 2 cents worth on the whole chicken debate, and that's it. Anybody have any questions, or, I don't raise chickens, I don't know anything about them. I just wanted to do a few facts, and...
Thank you for your comment.
All right, thank you.
Jeremy Coyle.
Good evening. As I pass a few pictures off, we're going to take a look at those, and I'd like to read a letter from each one of my neighbors that support my chickens. This is from Robert Schmitz. He lives in Hortonville. He's lived here for a while. To whom it may concern, my next door neighbor has had chickens for a couple of years. The chickens have never been a problem for us. They stay near the coop and they're an enjoyment to see roaming. The chickens are probably less trouble to neighbors and the authorities than the dogs that run free around town. I can't think of any other animal that could be any more troublesome than a chicken, less troublesome than a chicken. From my neighbor on the other side there. To whom it may concern, it has been brought to my attention there has been a complaint about the chickens at Jeremy and Julie Coyle's residence. They are no burden to us and we enjoy seeing them in the backyard. Jeremy and Julie often share their eggs with us and wanted to live a healthy lifestyle, and we are enjoying the benefits of the eggs also. We would like to continue seeing the chickens next door and enjoying the exercise. I've had chickens for a couple of years. I bought them at the local hardware store in Hortonville here, and Hortonville has traditionally been a farming community. I've had 3 sons who haven't been able to participate in 4-H and Future Farmers of America because of some of the concerns around this. But since the local hardware store started selling them, I got a couple of chickens, and I know I have 6 chickens. As you can see from the pictures, I have an adequate yard. They're no trouble to anybody. They're more tame than dogs. If they stay in my yard, they won't cause anybody any trouble. And my neighbors touched on the healthy lifestyle. The chickens are antibiotic-free. They're free-roaming chickens, and they're organic. It's something we've been striving to be self-sufficient with the gardening and the raising of the chickens that we do in our yard. And I Officer Barr advised me to be here because there was a complaint from a citizen in Hortonville, so if you have questions for me, I'm happy to answer.
How many do you have?
I have 6 chickens. I got 3 the first year and 3 the second year.
This is an issue that we,
This is a public comment only.
okay.
Just to explain a little, we can't interact back and forth because it's not an agenda item. So
Okay.
this is an opportunity for us to just listen, but we cannot comment back.
Can I say something? That would be okay? I have a question. Who gave you approval in order to have chickens? Because I had heard the rumor going around that Sullivan, our former police chief, was actually letting people, in fact, I had a neighbor who wanted to have chickens, and he told them that it was okay. And I had actually gone and talked to Tracy Martin when she was the president, and she said, no, that was wrong of him to be telling people to have, that he could have chickens, and that, no, you weren't allowed. And this meeting was supposed to have happened 2 years ago, but everything just kept getting pushed back and pushed back. So, I don't know, who you...
I guess I didn't get approval from anybody since we're selling them at the hardware store, which is a local business in town here. I guess I didn't even think about that. You know, people have dogs, cats, all kinds of animals, and these are in a coop, and they're in a fenced-in, fenced-in dog run, so they're in the coop probably 75% of the day throughout the winter, but they are roaming inside the fenced-in area, which is about 20 by 25. The coop is an old ice fishing shack, which I repurposed into the chicken coop, and it's 6 by 8. I just got done stapling plastic around there. They're self-sufficient with their heat over the winter. They don't cause you any trouble, and my grandkids love them, the neighbor kids love them. So I think they're an asset to people around here, especially with some of the programs that run through high school. And Hortonville has been traditionally a farming community for years and years. I've only been here about 15 years, but I know the history of Hortonville, and I appreciate it. So, almost an acre of property right in town here with a wood setting, and, it might be a little different with a different size property, but I feel it's pretty adequate on what it has, as you can see by the pictures.
Oh, sure. Thank you for your comments. Anybody else? Moving on to committee reports, Senior Activity Committee.
Senior Activities Committee met on Wednesday, October 25th, right after the Senior Autumn Fest that we held here. And one of the first things that we ran into was asking to keep our funds at the end of the year. That's an agenda item later. Next thing was the Autumn Fest itself. It was very well attended this year. We had almost 40 people from the community and surrounding communities that attended. We had a speaker on Social Security that was well received. He had seems like a dry subject, but he made it very interesting to listen to, and there were people asking questions. We had somewhere between 10 and 13 people from different organizations around the room where the participants could get information on different subjects, and they really enjoyed the lunch that we provided. We had reports on the Library Tourist in Your Own Town program. We reported on the meal site update, the fact that they were going to be getting going after the electricity got in, but they haven't set a date yet. We're going to be holding a holiday dinner for the senior citizens on December 4th. And we noticed that there were other musical opportunities in the area, including the Tuba Christmas at the high school on December 1st. We're going to be seriously looking into a general brochure after the beginning of the year, putting some more articles out. And our next meeting is going to be November 14th at 3:30.
Any questions for Lynn? Hearing none, we'll move on to unfinished business, which we have none. So we'll go right into new business. First is R-20-17, final resolution for Industrial Park Avenue roadway construction special assessments.
You have the resolution in your packets, as well as the final engineer's report setting out the costs of the project and the assessments against the various properties. The resolution is one of the ending parts of the special assessment process. We previously had the preliminary resolution as well as the public hearing. We had the letting of the contract and the project. Now we're talking about the final resolution, which would set out the amount of years that people would have to pay their assessments in installments if they wish, as well as the percentage if they wish to spread it out over more than just the original payment, and that's where we're at.
Didn't we come up with a timeline, or, I thought we did, but
We had been looking at the size of the assessments here. They range from about 2,600 up to almost 27,000 for one company. So it's quite a range of money between the different properties there.
I
I thought we talked about 3 years.
Was it 3 or 5?
We've been talking
Three.
about a range of 3 to 5.
Yeah.
We were talking.
Okay.
The larger amount probably starts at 5.
We don't, we have one set of years, that's it.
You want to be out as quickly as possible, didn't you?
Yeah, I thought we had the conversation was we didn't set a number, though, it was between 3 to 5
Okay.
years.
Okay.
And it would be just one set of years. People have the option to pay it off as fast as they want to. It's not meant that if we say 5 years, that we stretch it out to 5 and you have to stick with that 5-year payment plan. You can pay it off right up front as soon as I send the bills. You can pay it off anytime during the 5 years, or you can wait and let it stretch the entire 5 years if that's the number that the board chooses.
Does it really have any, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Does it really have any effect if it's 3 or if it's 5, I mean, for the village? I mean, is there?
Costs us more money in the
is there-
interest because we have to take out the initial loan. So the
Okay.
longer it's stretched out, the more interest that the village pays.
So it would be to our benefit to keep it as constrained as possible?
Correctly?
It would be to the village's benefit, yes. The
Yes.
other thing is that we would have to make sure that we are charging at least as much interest to the people as we are going to be paying on our loan.
And that amount is?
What I have been told is that a good number to work with is 2.75% for the bank loan.
Annually.
That would be the loan, would be the interest on the loan.
Okay. So we can't set a benchmark, let's say, the top number you said was 26,000. We
26
can't
to
set a
27.
benchmark at, let's say, 10, anybody 10 and below,
No.
pay off in 3 years, anybody above his. Okay.
How about we just say 4?
Is that state?
What
Law,
number?
or is
is-
that-
No.
You're gonna be uniform.
You have to be uniform, but the number, whether it's 3, 4, or 5 for putting in here for the one number,
Got
is
it.
not set by state
Okay.
law, no.
Just wanted to clarify that. Understand.
I suggest 4 then. Just because it's right in the middle of 3 to... Pretty simple.
Are you at liberty to tell us who the highest taxpayer is, or the assessment payer is?
It's in the report that you have in your packet.
Yeah, well, the one I can't get because it just got back.
Oh,
You don't have a
okay,
computer?
that's good.
This would be
on the south side.
Tom
On the
Leasing.
south side.
Tom Leasing. Where you combine the two properties there.
And then across the road from that.
Okay. So what's your recommendation for?
I'm gonna just throw that out there.
Those are two items that we have to plug the holes in this resolution. So we have to plug in the number of years and we have to plug in the interest.
Well, given that we want it paid back as quickly as possible because of the interest that's charged on the loan, I think 4 is an amicable amount.
And I would say 4, 2.75, whatever the loan amount is, if that's what we're comfortable with.
Are we locked in on that?
No, we are not locked in at 2.75.
So that's good for it.
What I know for sure is that it's going to be 3 or less, and, I'm sorry, yes, once we do sign off on the loan, which I expect to be at the next meeting, then we will be locked in at the percentage.
Can we just make a motion to have the interest in whatever it is that you get, that whatever you lock in at, so not set the amount, the percentage amount, but have it be equal to whatever you get from the loan?
Can we legally charge more?
Yes.
Can we say it's 3%
Yes, you can.
to protect ourselves? So if there's a 0.25 float, that's to our benefit.
Yes, you can do that.
Okay.
Have any of the businesses expressed concern about how many years it will be?
Not to me.
No?
I don't know if anybody else has had conversations to that.
No, the only one I talked to just planned on paying it right away.
I haven't had any negative complaints, or any complaints.
And these assessments, Ron Wolf at McMahon did give me to understand that they came in 15% under the original assessments that we had been looking at. So they are lower.
You know, a 3% loan over 4 years is a good deal.
Oh,
It
absolutely,
really is.
absolutely.
So I'll make a motion that we set the term for payback on the assessments at 4 years, 48 months, at an interest rate not to exceed 3% annually.
Okay, now I would go with an interest rate of 3%.
Gotta be firm. Okay, 3%.
I'll second that.
Okay.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Now, we still have to approve the resolution. All we did is approve the numbers.
Oh, I'll make a motion to approve Resolution R 2017.
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved.
And I will be preparing the bills for everyone, and I will be bringing back a borrowing resolution at the next village board meeting.
Excellent.
And next, we have decision on financing for village portion of Industrial Park Avenue roadway construction project.
Okay, one of the things that is in this one is that there is a portion of this that is to be paid by the village, and it was, it's on the third page of this one here, $11,095.96 is the village's portion of this project cost. This one is for the section that is not in the TID district. So we have two options. We can either take out of our fund balance, which the auditors already feel is too low, or we can have it as part of the general borrowing.
The general borrowing,
Would be that borrowing that I'm talking about for paying off this project that we're talking about assessing out. We would not be assessing out our portion of it, so then the taxpayers would be paying back the $11,095.
well, given that our auditors are telling us that our fund balance is too low, that doesn't that kind of just drive us to the...
It does, but it's a decision that I had to bring to the village board rather than making it myself.
I'll make a motion, we use the borrowing, go borrow the monies.
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Borrow the money. Purchase of smaller recycling carts from New London.
The last time we talked about the recycling carts, we have had, I haven't looked recently, but I think about maybe a handful of residents who either don't want the recycling carts or would like smaller ones. I did reach out to New London, and they do have them available, and they would sell us them at cost, which was, I believe it was around $42, right around there. It does have the name imprinted on them, and it would be difficult to remove it, but, you know, in talking to the administrator at New London, so we might have a handful of carts in Hortonville that say New London on them. So that's an option for us, and what he had recommended, what they did, and this is what Outagamie County had said too, is that they had the residents keep the carts that they have right now for 2 months, I think.
3 months.
3 months. And then if they still wanted them, then they would swap them out, and in this case, they swapped out 42. So that's how they did it, because they found that some of the people that initially said it was too big, after a couple months of using it, found that it was, they liked it.
That's actually...
So they suggest that we wait a couple months,
Sage, yeah.
and then, you know, so that's what we could do, is just wait a couple months, a few months, and then contact the people who have contacted us so far, ask if they still want the different carts, and purchase them at $42 and swap them out.
And that number was like 9?
Right now, it's just been a handful.
It's been about 7 people. There, some people we're going to be talking about, some of the businesses on Main Street, but as far as the residents, it's about 7. Another thing that came out is, in talking to Outagamie County, they have a program where if you make an application and get a signed letter from your doctor stating that you have a disability and cannot be taking the cart out to the street, that they will put that on the route list, and the driver will get out of the truck and come get your cart at a prearranged spot
Sweet, what do we have to
and
do?
empty it for you.
You have to get a letter from your doctor, unfortunately.
So this would,
I think we need to be here for the ethical class.
I know, we skipped all of that. So this would take care of at least one of the residents that was talking to us that has that problem. And with some of the others that said that, they would have trouble handling it, we would also be talking to them about this as well.
And then the other thing is in New London, they sent out information to all of the residents telling them that this is available. That's another thing that, I don't know, if we want to, just have it be to the people who come to us. I personally don't think we should really, heavily market this because I don't think we want to be swapping all of these out. If it works, it works.
I agree with you as well, I should leave it out there for a couple months before we
Yeah.
go.
I think that's a good idea.
And then in 3 months, we'll contact those who have contacted us. We're keeping the list and then we'll work with them. And if it says New London, it says New London, so.
Now, what would we do, the cost would be then, how would we do that?
Well, I guess this is just me knee-jerk thinking about it, is right now that it's assessed onto their properties, I guess I would say that we swap out the one for the other. We keep the larger ones where we have the other ones and they're backup for if they're damaged and then they're gonna pay for them,
That's fair.
or new residences.
Yeah, that's fair.
So would you just get the exact amount that is being questioned?
I think so. After the 3-month period, that's what I would recommend.
And would they eventually down the road, if people found out 6 months from now they didn't, New London would still sell us more?
Yeah, New London said that they would have what we want. They ordered 112 and they used 42. So they anticipate they'll have some for a while, but again, it's gonna say New London on it, so, oh well.
Are you looking, Diane, for some sort of a motion, or is there?
No, because there's nothing we have to do at this point, and I don't think so. We had this discussion at the last meeting, and I just wanted to bring back what I had found, and, I mean, this to me doesn't need to be formal action. We'll just take care of it administratively within the department, and we'll wait 3 months. In 3 months, we'll contact those we have a list for, and we'll swap them out.
Anybody? Yes. Thank you. Thanks for doing that.
Okay, then we'll move on to Senior Activities Committee request to have any remaining 2017 budget line amount added to reserve account.
If you look at the senior activities minutes, you'll see that this was my brainchild. We have a small, a little bit over $200 in our reserve account from the seniors donating when they come to events. And we are going to have some left out of the $1,000 that the village budgeted for the Senior Activities Committee in this budget that will not be available in the 2018 budget. So what we were hoping was whatever we had not spent by the end of the year, to have the village board agree to have that added to our reserve account because we are going to need monies next year in order to continue activities. I think by the time we're through spending down on this, we're going to be in the neighborhood of $500 or possibly a little bit more, adding that to our reserve. We have not rolled that into the 2018 budget to use for revenues because it was such a small amount, we didn't know how much would be left, so it's not taking anything away from the 2018 budget we're planning on.
And we need a motion on this?
Yes.
So you're saying that the remaining funds in this budget this year be added to
The senior activities reserve account.
I'll make that motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. Special events policy.
I guess I'll take that. We had came up with a special event policy we've been working on for the last 6 to 12 months. We think we got it pared down and narrowed down pretty good. We also came up with an application that asked some key questions that could help us determine what would be required from the village departments, both police department, administration, and public works. I think right now the only concerns I've had were fees, triggers,
How big of an event would then
yeah.
trigger this in order for us to recoup our costs? So, is something that we still have not fleshed out.
I don't want to go into too much detail, but there was a lot of study done. The majority of municipalities do charge something. In fact, I don't think I know of any that don't for that. But I guess it depends, is there, I don't want to give you ideas, I mean, it's up to you, but is there a goodwill, like the first so much, like one officer, or if it's an alcohol permit, do we does that trigger one officer?
So a
If there's a
threshold.
live band, is there another threshold that when you have a live band? Pretty cut and dry when you have officers in the road for like a 5K run?
To me, I'm not gonna speak for everybody, to me, that seems like a bit of a slippery slope. I mean, where do you stop, where do you start? I mean, and here's where what I was gonna say. Why wouldn't we just, regardless of the event size, I mean, if you have a huge event and we only need one officer, I mean, why wouldn't we just look at it from a standpoint of whatever the event is requesting in regard to manpower, that be the fee?
Because the issue with that is that there would be some that say, then we don't need any, but it's really is needed. You know, they'll say, no, we don't want any police, you know, to do this stuff, but then it causes an issue. So that's the kind of concern that we have, is that, you know, some may go ahead and have an event that really should have some kind of,
Presence?
thank you. presence.
In my conversation with Carl today, just to set, especially in our role, to set the guidelines, because I could see this becoming maybe contentious. If I say, well, I think that we're gonna need a couple officers because of the amount of people, and there's alcohol served there and history, that they could say, well, I don't want that kind of coverage, I don't want that service. So just establishing guidelines as to, you know, some triggers, you know,
Why wouldn't we then, could we then do something along the lines of a fee to be determined? You know, have a minimum fee, if it's one officer, let's say it's just one officer, one guy for, if it's a, you know, whatever, 8 hours, if that's X. What's our minimum fee? And then we could just say, our minimum fee is this, but to be determined by Hortonville. And that way then, as you know, you as Officer Barr, say, hey, this is good, we're gonna need 3 guys, and it's gonna take X amount of dollars, and then we go back and here's the fee, and then they can say, okay, well, we're gonna go somewhere else.
You know,
So, yeah.
okay, as an event coordinator, I would be careful, it wouldn't affect us, but I would be very careful for these small enterprises, nonprofits that do the runs and stuff like that, because if the fees become too high, they're not gonna hold the event. They won't. You're talking about an initial $250 fee plus a permit and so on and so forth. Well, maybe they do a 5K run and they only make $500. Well, half their profits have gone for the fees. If we're to promote this community with festivals and events, there has to be some kind of ownership between the village government and the entities that are holding these events. So this platform, if you will, or this threshold where maybe there's one officer supply, these triggers you guys talked about, and maybe a couple of hours of public employees putting up barricades and stuff, is part of the $250 fee that you pay.
The 250 is a deposit.
I know, but it goes against the work and the hours, okay? So the other open-end part of this is we have no idea what the hourly rates are for a village employee. We have no fee schedule, so the $250, we don't know if you're going to exceed it or not. And we have no control over that. So all of a sudden we say, okay, you're supplying one officer, maybe we hire a security guard for an outside security person for the bar instead of using the police if that's you know, if that's, okay. But if I'm paying $35 an hour for an employee to set up barricades, I'm gonna set my own barricades up. So there's no fee schedule. To me, that's open-ended. I give a $250 deposit, they have the right to bill back, hoping that I don't exceed that $250, but all of a sudden get a bill for $490. I have no control over it.
But there's some barricades you can put up within that park, but you can't barricade off the street. You know, I mean,
No,
that's different.
we don't barricade off the streets. We barricade off the entrances to the park.
But like the 5K run did.
They do, yes. That's different.
You know, we're not inventing something here. We're not the first community to do this. So I
No.
guess my question is, you know, Carl, you said other communities, and Diane, you looked at other communities. What do they do? I mean, it's gotta, you know, that's.
When it comes to fee for a person, we're all different. I mean,
I know.
my
I mean, what I'm saying,
benefits.
I absolutely understand it. Across the board is different, but what do other communities, what is, I guess, what is typical?
It's the actual hourly rate, and actually I can,
Yeah.
we're lower than our hourly rates, and
Just about
salaries are typically
But does
lower
that
than
include
others.
benefits?
It runs the gamut.
Oh, see, it should.
I have
You
seen
can
5K
do-
runs where they have volunteers who direct the traffic and guide. So is that going to be against the law to do that? I mean, just save the money?
Well, I kind of do an ordinance for it, I mean.
Yeah, and really for safety purposes, and I just could see that as being an issue. We just actually recently had this conversation about having, crossing guards from the school going out and directing traffic, because that could be problematic. If there is some sort of an accident, who gave permission for them to do that, and does it come back to the village that we have to give permission for those situations? So, yeah, I believe that it should be, if we're blocking traffic, it should be either law enforcement or under our direction to fire or EMS or those folks, but under our direction. So I wouldn't feel comfortable about putting somebody out, a civilian out blocking traffic.
But you do see it. I was in Neenah this summer, and they had them blocking the roads, and they had, of course, their colored vests on, and they were directing traffic away from the runners.
Was it civilian officers, or you're talking just civilians? Just
Civilians.
But with barricades up, I've done 5Ks, but
Or
I'm thinking
they
like
hire
circumventing, are you gonna find that there's like, okay, well, if we call the fire department, these are volunteers. But they're still using, they're still using a rig, I see them fill up with gas, I mean, so there's a cost there, although these are volunteers, I would hate to see any circumventing, and just going to a volunteer to see, can you pull a fire truck out and block a road?
Does it make sense to kick this back to?
Yeah, I don't think
safety
we're gonna approve it tonight, but
and have public safety, or whatever the right committee is, I'm just suggesting public safety, but public safety, because this could be, my goodness, this is something I think we need a little bit more in depth.
What is the Appleton,
You do this
They all
stuff.
do this, yes. Every community that I have found information on charges.
We're on a state highway, we're not just some whole punk out in the middle of nowhere. That's the biggest safety, is that state highway.
Yeah, and I would say that larger agencies, Neenah, Appleton, typically they have some sort of force, like community service officers or auxiliaries that can come out at a very reduced rate to come out and block traffic for events. We don't have those types of resources, so it falls back on our patrols, so.
I want to add one more, I'm sorry, Brian.
No, go
I
ahead.
want to add one more thing. When I asked Diane about the hourly rates, that was not inclusive of benefits either, and it should be.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It should be. So that rate, if John Doe is out there and he's being paid $18.25, that should not be the billable rate. It should be inclusive of medical, dental, and all the benefits. So that might raise it up to $35, but that's where it should be.
I hear you saying some, most of them that I think,
Yeah.
I'm trying to
But
think
you're
of some
paying it
that I
out
saw, I
anyway,
didn't think
so-
it did, but.
It should be billed back.
we do charge those kind of rates whenever we have an accident, somebody runs over something, I have to send somebody out after hours. They pay everything, they pay the hourly rate,
That's
they
what
pay
they do.
FICA, they pay
And we do have
dental.
those,
You have those numbers?
we have those numbers documented, yes.
I think that's a discussion for the committee and bring it back to the board.
Okay, so with my pricing sheet, and I know that John Doe is X number of dollars and a barricade is this and so on and so forth, I can actually take that $250 and say, I need two guys.
I
This
want
is my-
Justin and Andrew.
Yeah, okay, I want Justin and Andrew, and I want a barricade here and a barricade there. Then I know what I'm spending. I don't want to get a surprise a week after the event.
The problem, the main reason for this, as I see it, is to prevent an unexpected large event where the village has no control over it.
Totally agree.
It's happened, in some municipalities where somebody says, I got a great idea for an event. And they don't put anything into it as far as planning the security.
Right.
And the public protection or the traffic or any of that. And then all of a sudden that municipality, they can't just ignore it, so they go out there and they incur expense. So, it wasn't to deal with 5Ks or, I think, operations like you've had, Peter. But I think it is important to work on to prevent an abuse, I mean, a large abuse of public resources.
Well, I think
See, actually, it is to also cover those other things like the 5Ks.
And again, but that's going to be
Okay.
small. There's not going to be a lot of cost to that, right?
But, yeah,
Actually, that was
let's do it all inclusive
Okay.
of everything. So
Well,
we got
the-
a policy that takes care of everything.
Yeah. And I agree, I think it should go back to committee. But, you know, the one thing that Peter said, I think, should be added here to, you know, what we have so far is, you have the $250 deposit, and then arguably, Peter could be in the dark until he gets the final invoice. That's his point. I think once we've made an assessment, the department heads know what they're going to put out there, we can tell the organizer, this is going to be an approximate cost, and you still want to have the event or not.
Correct. If they fill out the application truthfully, then it will be reviewed by the police department and public works and sent to the administrator. We know kind of what we're looking at before the event ever takes place.
Right. And that can be communicated to them. And
Right.
if it's too rich for them, they can change their event and do whatever they want.
Okay, back to what you just said. Let's say somebody fills it out and they didn't expect this extra 2,000 people at this event, and now the PD needs to call in some auxiliary. Could there be, okay, so this is the anticipated charge, however, who makes the judgment call to call in another officer?
I'm sure Bob could write in a caveat or something.
Yeah, I mean-
Well, but I'm thinking, like, I think sometimes these Harley raffles are amazing and Hortonville, but you really never know the crowd you're gonna get, and let's say we've said we're gonna do this many officers, and then there's an extra 2,000 people that show up.
That's right. I think that should be passed
That should be a judgment call that
Yes.
it could, we make that judgment call, and if we
Absolutely.
can't find that point of contact at that event, we still can make that judgment call.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that's fair.
And it's really fair, because then it gives you some, like, I'm short here.
So do we need some sort of a motion to put this back to committee, or will it go?
I think we should go to committee. This is one of the things we try not to bring to the full board, to talk too much about stuff, so we should go back to
I think we
committee.
should go, do we need a motion to do that, or we just do that? I'll make a motion that this special events policy go back to
Public safety.
Public safety.
go back to public safety for review and to come back to the board.
Second. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? You got something for your committee.
Along with chickens.
So I have a question for Robert. Due to the fact that I chair that committee, I also am the host of 2 events. You think there's a conflict there? Or would it be,
It's tough, I think.
Well, actually, with the class, or the session that we had just before the board meeting, the training.
the one I missed?
Yeah, well, we asked her specifically because of that, and she's gonna get back to us on conflict regarding organizations and nonprofits. So she said she's gonna look into that and get back to us on if she thought that's something that needs to be recused or not.
Depends on your
Yeah,
position.
that could be.
But
I
I
mean,
mean-
I guess I don't have a yes or no answer, but that would be a potential.
I mean, your input, I think, would be invaluable.
You know, you just don't, so I don't share it, but I sit in on it, because I can add a lot of value to the conversation.
But you just don't vote on something.
No,
No.
you don't take part in the discussion and you do not vote. It was directed in the material that you gave.
Right. You would remove yourself.
Basically what she said, legally you have the right to speak, but it doesn't look good being a board member speaking.
I totally agree. So with that in mind, I think I'm just going to resign from that position.
What?
Yeah, and the reason, there's twofold. First of all, you can find somebody else to fill that. With what's going, is there anybody else here?
The camera.
Okay. Robert, you wanted to say something?
Go ahead.
With what's going on with me medically, and I'm having an issue trying to make these meetings, especially the cow meetings, I don't get out of Milwaukee till 4 o'clock, then I hit rush traffic. I can usually get here by 6:30. For me to make the other meetings, if you can find somebody else to take my place, I think this is the appropriate time to do it, if that's okay with everybody. Robert, you want to make comment?
No, that's,
Well, here's the time.
Yeah, no, I wasn't making the comment about that. It was on an issue that passed, so.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's fine.
So so your input, because you're on the board, you can't take your input on that committee?
No.
Which would be,
On that subject matter.
Right.
See the body language and discussion, yeah.
Oh, no, that's a conflict of.
well, no, and I understand, Bob, but.
But what you do though on the committee, it'd be like on this board, what you should do is remove yourself from this circle, and, you know, if you want to talk about it in a private capacity, then you sit there, and it's obvious that you're a private citizen, and that's okay, but that's.
But what she said also is where you have to start looking at the ethics of being a board member, even though you're sitting out there. How does it appear
Yes.
to everybody
We're having a
that
different,
you're the board member?
somebody else on the civic committee, or civic group, be a representative of the civic group, not Peter. You know, I mean, you have other members,
Jane?
but have another member who gives citizen comment.
Well, we'll have to work out that logistic.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're kind of off the event policy.
I think we need to move on.
That's what I'm going to say, that we're a little off topic here.
Let's bring it back up.
Al, you think about that, okay? We'll talk offline. Have your secretary call my secretary.
Any other miscellaneous topics?
I knew you were gonna look at me.
I didn't, well, I think it's public safety, but I think you can just talk about chickens.
I think so too.
Say what?
Chickens.
Any
Well, your
chickens
chickens
in
are-
public
It's public
safety?
safety, but it needs, I think we need to
But that goes to
still,
public safety.
it still gotta throw it out there.
So there's two issues.
Yep.
Yep. We have any other topics for future discussion?
Next meeting is going to be the public hearing for the downtown zoning code. And also, we received a letter from the purchaser of the Schilling property requesting some relief from the high water bill that's accumulated. And so that's going to be on the next board agenda as well.
16. Is that going to be the meeting with the initial budget also?
No, not initial budget, that is going to be the night for the public hearing for the budget and the passage of the resolution setting the budget.
Okay,
It's going to be the end of it.
It's a big night.
big night, yeah.
And speaking of the budget, it's, the entire thing is online on the Facebook page, trying to get it out there.
Bet you that getting a lot of hits, huh?
And we're again moving off a topic.
Sorry. Sorry, Al.
Report of village officers, administrator, East Central Wisconsin.
Every year, we get an opportunity to apply for 2 technical assistance projects through East Central RPC at no cost. The last 2 years, one of them was the downtown zoning code. We also did that Vision 2020 project. This year, I put in a request for a conceptualization of the TID over here. And I still got to work with them on that to tell them kind of what I mean, but what I'm looking for is for them to kind of have it a more visual thing, a draft plan.
Which
So
TID?
that, the TID 3, so that potential developers can visualize it, might help us in marketing it, basically, to get the development there. So I'm working with them to try to kind of explain and go through what that looks like. And then the other one is for a sign, wayfinding, kind of a wayfinding type thing, but a sign to put on the kiosk downtown that shows the different trails in the area and beyond Hortonville, but not be just a regular map, but kind of a more user-friendly one. I describe it as kind of a cartoon map where you have the little people on it and stuff like that. A lot more friendly than just a standard map. So those are the 2 things that, and then that would be on the kiosk and then also copies for us to hand out. So those are the 2 requests that we put in. They still meet with their board to decide which ones they're gonna take on. So that's it. On that part, the next one is the chief of police hiring update. I notified all of the board that the candidate declined. The reason why I put it on this is not so much to discuss it at length, but for public information. because he needs to be out there. So basically, I offered him the position as the board had directed, and after a couple days of, and then he met with both Brian and myself, and ultimately he declined, citing the pay, the cost of the benefit package, and the design of the job being both patrol and administration. That he didn't feel that he would be able to get things done that he felt needed to be done with just the limited amount of administration. So as you can see on the agenda, we've got a closed session later today, later this evening, to discuss next steps. The next grants applied for, as I mentioned while we were working on the budget, that I would continue to...
Downtown zoning.
You missed one.
Oh, I'm sorry, downtown zoning. Oh, okay, yeah, the public hearing is going to be next week, next board meeting. The draft downtown zoning code has been recommended for approval by the Planning and Zoning Commission, and we also, a couple months ago, held a public informational meeting on it. And I, again, have some information out on the website and the Facebook page for public information, so hopefully we'll get that passed. And then last is the grants applied for. I mentioned at the discussions of budget that I'll continue to try to get some other funding, and specifically for projects that we can complete within our own, with our own staff. We're looking for more materials and then us to be able to do it. I don't want to overextend staff or take projects on that we would normally do. I applied for one with Home Depot for some renovations to the Opera House, and we were turned down. I applied for one with the Schneider Foundation, and frankly, I don't remember what it was. I think it was for the AEDs at Otto Miller, and that was turned down. And I applied to the one with State Farm, and I limited it to the AEDs at Otto Miller Park. Originally, I had talked about potentially expanding it to include the electrical and lights. However, looking at the categories and what they fund, I felt that would eliminate us, because there are specific areas and include public safety and community development, but it didn't fall under the specifics of the community development because it was like neighborhood revitalization, and so I felt that we'd get kicked out if I included that. So the grant is request is for 3 AEDs at Otto Miller Park, and the reason why I'm pushing this is because, we have the one AED downtown, we've got the one here, but of all the sports, the one that is the most likely to have people and kids have a sudden cardiac arrest is baseball, because they get line drives right here. And my understanding is I had heard that we have one, but it's in the shelter and it's not very accessible. So this request is to have 3 AEDs, one at the lower, one at the upper, and one at the pavilion. To have the kiosk, to have it outside in a heated cabinet so that it's accessible 24/7, and have cameras on it so that, to try to deter any kind of tampering. And the name of the project, because you gotta have a catchy name, is Heart in the Park. I like that.
Oh, amazing.
Isn't that good? So I just put that one in, the deadline was October 31st. The request is it's right around in the 15,000 range. So I'll keep looking, and what my goal is to, once a month put in a grant somewhere. So that's all.
Any questions for Diane? And now we move on to clerk treasurer.
And I submitted the financial report with the status of the savings accounts and the various reserve funds.
Any questions on the financial report? That's all you have? And we'll move to Director of Public Works.
I just have a few, both the water and sewer utility projects, all the water main and sewer main, that's all done. The concrete spot repairs and curb and gutters completed. They should be in tomorrow to finish the paving, so we'll get those roads open back up. The MSID grant, that's a local road improvement program that the state offers through the county. We had our meeting scheduled for Wednesday. It was, last minute it was canceled, so we're having it again next week, Tuesday. So we've got the application uploaded to the state website, and and hopefully we don't have too much competition, because we are asking for a lot regarding Grandview, so hopefully we'll do all right there. Wildwind, there are only 2 items remaining before we start issuing building permits. One of them is written documentation of site grading compliance with the master grading plan, and John Dable's gonna submit that, or give that to us when he feels the contractors have leveled out the areas that, as designed on the plans, the blueprint. So again, site grading requirements need to be done, and we're also still waiting on the biofilter agreement to be signed.
That's right.
And once we get those 2, I think they're good to go to start building. So that'll be nice. And I also have one more thing, the mill site from the ADRC with the county. We've been waiting on some electrical work. As you know, all contractors have been extremely busy, and all we wanted was a new receptacle for the mill site for them to use, and we've been waiting about 3 weeks now, and supposedly they'll be out Monday to install that. So if that's the case, then I wouldn't be surprised to see that mill site up and running pretty soon. So that's all I have.
Any questions for Carl?
I do. I think it was Ron Wolf who said that he thought the limitations on that grant were 50,000, but then he corrected himself.
Oh, no, that was
That was
Albert.
Albert.
Al.
No, he thought it was, he thought the limit was 500,000 for the total project.
What are we asking for?
We estimate the project to be 350 plus.
Yeah.
More plus than minus.
And we,
It's a 50, pretty much, yeah.
the concern, the initial concern is wasn't a maximum, it was a minimum.
Right.
Yeah, so no, that's been
Okay.
corrected, so we are applying for that.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Carl? Hearing none, we move on to Police Department.
Yeah, just as an update to the prescription drop box, this last week Officer Hauser took down, annually we take down our medications, and this year to Fond du Lac, we drop them off at the State Patrol headquarters. We had 83 pounds of prescription meds this year. So it's just good to see those things not going into our toilets or in the hands of people that shouldn't have them, so.
Brian, what
Yes.
did we have prior to getting the box here?
I don't know what the number was last year, but I know the number was higher, and we didn't get that drug drop box until, I want to say it was in the spring, so I would anticipate that number will go up as the word gets out that we have it, which is fantastic. I just had a few employee updates. Some of you know already, Julie Shu took the position at admin assistant over at the PD. She was formerly employed here as the court clerk and then worked at Grand Chute Police Department for a few years. Officer Dasco resigned on October 24th. Last week, Diane and I met with interested part-time candidates, and we offered the position to Officer Brian Halser. He comes with a few years of patrol experience, and so I'm working with the district. I actually met with them today to fill the .5 SRO role, and it'll likely be Officer Halser. So just wanted to update the board on those employment updates. That's all I got.
Any questions for Brian? Hearing none. Bob?
I have nothing tonight.
Then we go to presentation of counts and other claims against the village.
The voucher list consists of payroll deduction, I should say contribution, submittals and payments of loans, and vouchers number 24128 through 24168 in the amount of $123,732. Direct deposit payroll in the amount of $30,646.73. Water and sewer utility vouchers number 10189 through 10198 in the amount of $65,088.
Move to approve.
I'll second that.
Roll call.
Aye.
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 Approved. Moving on to communication and miscellaneous business. Hortonville Civic Association.
All right, I'll make this real short and sweet. This year, our 2 events raised an additional $5,142, which we spent at Alonzo Park. $3,717 went into power infrastructure upgrades. $1,025 went to providing new LED lighting for the grounds. and we spent $400 on ground improvements. So those are monies that the village didn't have to come up with, and next year we hope to spend more. I'm going to turn this over to Carl in just a minute. He was give you just an idea of what additional upgrades we'll do, we want to do next year. But in addition to that, after the first of the year, we're going to roll out a capital campaign. The Hortonville Civic Association is going to spend 2 years trying to raise $75,000 that Carl will tell you where we're going to spend it at Miller Park.
Right now?
Go ahead, make it quick.
All right. Yeah, we're looking at Miller Park, like I told Peter, Miller Park is a gem. It's very underused and underdeveloped. I think everybody has mentioned the use of splash pads. I'd like to see a pavilion there, expand the parking, pave the parking. There's a lot that we can do with that place. And it holds a lot of potential for Hortonville. I mean, it's just a great place and it will be fun.
Yeah, so we're going to spend the next 2 years working on this project. At some point in time, we'll come back to the board with a preliminary plan and show you exactly what's going to go on. But we want this to kind of all fall into place with Diane's vision of 2020.
Yeah. I just want to mention that Peter talked about the improvements made at Alonzo. Those are improvements that weren't in my budget and weren't planned, and I know there's some talk about what we could do in the future and what we can do now and try to find the funding, but there's items that were done down there that we weren't looking at for years, so we got improved electrical, improved lighting, and that's going to probably continue for the next few years as well. So.
Yeah, so the monies that we raise at the 2 events we'll spend at Alonzo. The capital campaign will be completely separate, and that's earmarked for Miller Park, so. We'll see how we do.
Any questions for Peter? Hearing none, we go to comments and suggestions. I see we have nobody out there. And I move to a motion to go into closed session under state statute 19.851C.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
Roll call.
Straight.
All right.